Thank you for
Great.
speaking with me today, Chris.
Good.
So with the kind of holiday season coming up, there's different tactics that PPCers might take to deal with this. So I guess first of all, in terms of product feed, so when you're preparing a product feed for peak shopping periods like Black Friday or the holidays, what are the key things that you focus on?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting one because I think a lot of advertisers, you can imagine when Black Friday comes along, everyone's budgets go from like next to nothing to a massive amount because Black Friday period is so intense. And it has changed a little bit because I know it used to be over like just a Black Friday day, then a Black Friday weekend, and now a Black Friday month. But to stand out is still really difficult, even over that entire month. So when I'm probably looking at feeds with the clients that I work with, it's all about how can you make yourself stand out on that carousel, but equally because of the likes of PMax, how can we stand out when there's image assets across the other inventory? So, you know, across display, YouTube, Gmail, the rest of it. Some of the things that I've seen work really well are kind of messing with backgrounds and things like that. So, for example, I've seen, I think it was the Huel brand that I saw where they had pictures of products on the carousel. But actually, when you click through, you got a lot more than just a packet of fuel. You got the free bottle, you got a scoop, you got a t-shirt, you got whatever it was. So to put all of that, I think to put it all in the actual image of the thumbnail on the shopping feed, they got a massive increase in click-through rate. And I've seen that with other brands I work with as well. There's a client that sells CT1, which is basically just like a sealant for builders. And actually, if they put one of every color on to show the different variants of colors available, it kind of looked like you got all 6, even though it's just one bottle. But actually, just the click-through rate went up massively. The other element of shopping in the feeds is probably the titles as well. We all know how important those are. And I think optimizing those, testing, putting the brand first, the color first. You can be sneaky in some occasions and actually put Black Friday at the start of the titles, which I've seen work really well, but Google have clamped down on that before. But it just makes it look like a deal, makes it look like something you shouldn't miss out on. Obviously, if you're going to put things like big deal watermarks on the images, that's going to be quickly cut down because they've got kind of automated systems that understand if there's any text on a product image. But there's so much you can do now just to make it feel Black Friday. Maybe it's in a black background, maybe it's in a, got celebration bubbles around it. I'm not too sure, but you can be creative with it, even though shopping feeds are, predominantly boring because they're just a big Excel spreadsheet. There's quite a lot of creativity that you can actually do to stick out.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned about the optimizing side of things because I think some people think that PMax, for example, you can just set it and like let it do its thing, and you don't really have that much input on it. What would you say to that? Do you think you can have more control if you need it, or is it something where you just kind of have to put it all in one and it's technically, like, I think the phrase is like black box, where you don't really know what's going on inside of it?
Yeah, I remember black box was like the most commonly used term when it first came out because there was literally nothing, literally just stick your assets in and hope for the best. Now, Google have become better at exposing some of the queries, and you can put in negatives, and you can actually now see on, I think, a new beta on a channel platform beta where those impressions, costs, and conversions are coming from. But definitely it's not a set and forget. I think a lot of advertisers now, they're breaking them into certain asset groups and then trying different things with different asset groups. So for example, asset group 1 might be very brightly colored assets. Maybe asset group 2 is more lifestyle assets and products and imagery, and then breaking that down, just testing things at scale. I've seen asset groups really well. I work with like an auction house provider. They did a load of assets with AI, and then they did a load of assets with like their own staff, and then another one of just like houses they've actually sold. And they just continually test things because you can put like up to 20 images in each asset group. It's just been a really quick like A, B, C, D, E, F, G test at like a really quick scale. So there's loads of stuff you can do. And the more that you give it, all 15 headlines, all 20 images, videos, the more that it'll learn what sort of images resonate with your audience as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you do still have to, put in that effort and put in your own assets and not just let it do its thing without looking at it.
Definitely.
Also, I guess more about the bidding and budgeting. So obviously during the holidays, I think you touched on it a little bit, but during the holidays, Black Friday and everything, some PPCers may think, I need to put all of this money into maybe PMAX or just your campaigns.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain technique or strategy around budgets and bidding around this time that you would recommend people to follow?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of advertisers probably bid too late in the game. So I'd probably even look at upweighting your budgets into some of the maybe more medium intent inventory, so demand gen and PMAX across YouTube before November even starts, so that when the demand does actually start to increase for your products or services, then people already know who you are because they might have seen a video from a few weeks ago, or they've seen you on Meta or something like that. So I probably have that kind of mid-intent journey through the October time, so that when you kind of activate and push up your budgets and all the low-hanging stuff like the PMAX, even branded activity, competitor campaigns, you've already got a warm audience there to some degree that you can use. But I know when I've worked at previous companies, I've worked with a few clients, they used to just literally splash the cash on that one weekend now, and it literally is more of a marathon. So trying to just eke that spend up over time and being really reactive with that day on day. If there is double the opportunity on the 2nd of November, we'll capture it then. And it's just being really reactive to when people are searching for you rather than trying to force spend through at a certain time, is what I would say. That makes sense. I'm not rambling too much.
No, that's good. It's I think we're trying to explain at the moment, like, this is the time to start, putting your campaigns in place, even though it feels like it's already it's quite a while away. Like Black Friday is the end of November.
Yeah.
But even still, this is the time to like start ramping things up, because it's all gonna result in more sales. Then you can't just like pile a whole load of budget at that time.
Yeah,
like, that's the best way to do it.
definitely.
It's not gonna work.
I think the other bit that advertisers fall over on is just thinking about stuff like once the 1st of November has happened. So they think about what would happen if we plowed loads more traffic through to the site. Oh, it's going to fall over. Why didn't we think of that in the summer? Or another one is like, oh, our tracking's broken. They only realize that on like the 1st of November again when they're piling loads of stuff through. So to have all of those things kind of sorted way before you actually put any money through is just, it sets you up for success then, rather than getting to the point of you needing the sales and you can't even track if you're getting any more.
Yeah, that's a really important point, actually, to keep, the background stuff, maybe not the so, I don't know, the more interesting stuff, I guess. Like the stuff that's just constantly going on in the background, keeping an eye on that and making sure it's all running smoothly.
Definitely agree. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So let's just have a look at my questions. Okay, so one about campaign structure. How do you usually decide on the best way to structure shopping campaigns? For example, by category or margin or search intent?
Yeah. I'll normally, when I'm first working with a client, understand what they want to get out of an account. So sometimes there's like a construction client that I work with, and they'll have a very specific bunch of SKUs that they have to be on top of no matter what. Even if they've got like a 1% ROAS or 1,000% ROAS, they need to show those. So I'll bucket those out into a separate campaign, and we'll have that on just like a target impression share, max click strategy, or something that just gains visibility. And then unless there are any key margin differences across the product, you can probably just break that out by product theme. So for example, it might be sealants, and it might be like power tools and bits and bobs like that, just so that you've got the assets that are relevant to that product type. If they do have differences in margin, I'll then either try and get those bidding strategies to play to those margins, or break it out by margin. So for example, you'll have power tools high margin, power tools low margin, and then like sealants high margin, sealants low margin, just that way, so that you can optimize towards the sales that are going to get you high revenue, but also bring in the cash as well. Because I've seen a lot of Google shopping accounts where you go in and they're spending all this money and they're getting all this revenue, but it's on products that are getting a 2% margin. And actually all the kind of the zombie products that sat in the background there, they're a 60% margin. So even though the CPA would have been more expensive, the overall return would have been, you know, like 10 times greater or something. So that's probably the best thing to do, is look at the products, because loads of people have thousands of products in their feed. And I think it's just trying to understand which are the ones that A, people are going to search for, but B, are going to make you the most amount of money, either instantly or by getting them on board and then having that repeat purchase.
Right. Okay. And how would you adapt this, or would you change this at all when it's coming up to the holiday season? Is there any way that you would change how you would structure the shopman?
I might have a Black Friday dedicated campaign, and again, just all the products that are in promo and sticking that there, and then sticking down the ROAS target, so it's more free to pump out that stuff. And likewise, just having like Black Friday mentioned in the headlines, mentioned in the descriptions, mentioned on the product pages, which is, I think, another point as well that people don't look at, is the actual product page that they're landing the traffic to. If it doesn't match what you've then promised on the ad copy, they're never gonna purchase from you. So I think just marrying that all up is going to do the best result. You can also mess around with things like seasonality adjustments as well, and things like that just forces the tech to push a little bit harder without necessarily having the data to know when is a good time to push, because Google very often say you need days and days worth of data to make before the tech has learned, you know, often up to 30 days. Whereas if you have seasonality adjustments, you're just overriding that tech to say, actually, this is a very high intent period, go after that traffic, kind of regardless of whether you think it's a good idea or not.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you can adapt in that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Way. Okay. So what else do I have? Smart bidding. I've asked you about that already. Oh, actually, yeah. Could we move on to like predictions for PPC in 2026?
Yes.
So is there anything that you think will change? Any ways that you think people will work differently, or do you think maybe people will hand over more control to AI for their campaigns, or what do you see happening in the next year?
Yeah, so might be a bit controversial with this one. I don't know if Google are going to come after me for this, but I reckon we're going to be at maybe not 2026, maybe the end of 2026, but a kind of a world where we don't look at keywords, or keywords are significantly less important. We might have, you look at PMax now, there's no keywords in it at all. It's completely based on the audience, not the keywords, and you can put negatives in there and brand exclusions and the rest of it. But I think that's definitely the focus for Google, is looking at the person that sits behind that. What's the journey? Where have they been on? What other inventory are they sat on, where they're not necessarily searching for something specific, but we know they're in market for a new trampoline or a new house. So I think that's going to be really important, is to understand, like, keywords are only part of the story, and I think the reliance on those is going to go down, at least from what we can see. I think the bit around AI is really, really critical as well. You can see that in Google Ads itself now. It is starting to, you can ask AI to pull a report for you now. So you can say, pull a report on time of day analysis on clicks for my top 10 products in the reports editor, and it'll just go and build it in a line graph. Equally, you can ask it questions on why things changed, why did my conversions go down, why did my CPCs go up, and it will kind of try and give you an answer. And a lot of that AI and automation is definitely going to become more prevalent in the ads, whether that's through Google support as well. I think our Google support will be led down talking to Gemini as opposed to talking to a Google Ads rep. And in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. I've never had a particularly good experience with Google Ads reps. It's always been the kind of maybe Gemini that's given me the best answers. But I think ultimately it's all a case of things are going to be a bit more kind of, we spoke about it before, a bit more black boxy. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I think advertisers just need to be ready to not just put all of their eggs into the Google basket, and just make sure that they're visible in whatever platform people are searching on.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about the keywords, because I was talking to Nava Hopkins the other day, and she was saying the same kind of thing. Like, keywords are a lot less prevalent now. It's more about the behavior of the customer, and that actually makes it kind of more interesting, rather than just looking at keywords all the time, which is kind of like a bit of a slog to looking at the people behind the decisions. So yeah, it was interesting that you say that. So what skill would you say that future PPCers, what do you think that they will they will need that's maybe like a new skill that PPCs may not have had before?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because I probably instantly would have said like the ability to control the AI is going to be really important. But actually what I think is going to be really important now is the more of a commercial mindset. So I think in this world, we've got loads of PPCers who might be able to set up a new ad campaign. They might be able to set up a new A/B split test. They might be able to, you know, drive clicks towards a product. But actually, I think what's going to be really important moving forward is that people have commercial awareness whilst they're building out these campaigns, because ultimately we're all here to make our boss or our client more money. So it's about how we ultimately go about that plan, whether it's sticking our heads out above the sand and going, actually, your landing page is terrible, or, you know, we could then, all this prospecting traffic through Google, we can then drive through Meta with remarketing, and just having a more of a holistic view of how to make money for the business is going to be really important, because ultimately the more that AI becomes prevalent in our lives, the more that it can do for us, which isn't a threat for us. I think it just means we can do more than just focusing solely on one channel. Actually means we can have a look at how does one channel play against another, or, you know, just how do we make sure that we actually make the most amount of money that we can? How do we bring profit data into the atmosphere? How do we make sure that, you know, all of it's singing to the same P&L hymn sheets, whatever that is? I think it's just going to mean that us as PPCers there's going to be more demanded from us.
Yeah, the platform thing is also interesting, because I think a lot of people just go straight to Google Ads, and just like solely focus on that and not on the other platforms. How do you feel about the other platforms? Do you use them a lot? Like, do you use Microsoft Ads, or you've mentioned Meta as well? So which ones do you utilize, and like which ones are the most prevalent?
Yes, I think Google is the most prevalent at the moment, just because it has so much inventory available. But equally, it's the drug that most people are then addicted to, because it is just the go-to. So that's why Bing is really good. When people go, Microsoft Ads, they're not worth it. That's the exact reason why it is worth it, because no one else can be bothered to go on it. So competition on sort of the Bing Ads platform is less. The CPCs are less. And I think the data that I've seen shows it's a slightly more affluent and older audiences, mainly because some of them have forgotten to change the default browser on the laptop. But, you know, if you're, let's just say like a cruise liner, cruise company, a more affluent and older audience, it's the perfect audience. So it depends on who you're trying to sell to. But Microsoft Ads is definitely the kind of forgotten about child that I think is actually really, really good. And then second to that is Meta. And I think Google and Meta just, you know, they sing well together in terms of, if you can do a good prospecting campaign on Google and back that up by going to the same audience on Meta. A really good example I had of that was someone was spending a load of money on LinkedIn, and they said that using Meta was a waste of time, because no one of the business to business is on Meta, but actually everyone's on Meta. You know, these people on Meta once they get home from work. Just because they work in a business doesn't mean that they don't use these platforms. So for us to be able to retarget those people who'd searched and then were just scrolling on their Facebook feeds at 5 o'clock at night on Meta that we knew were business people was really important. And because LinkedIn was really expensive, Meta was just a really cheap way of getting those people in different forum, but also in a more sort of engaging and visual way.
Yeah, I think, yeah, people don't really realize the opportunity in the other platforms. Like, I think it can be a bit of an education piece sometimes. Like, it's
Definitely.
not just about this one. Yeah, everyone always goes straight to Google, but it's not. You can get more results from different platforms, and it's less competition, as you say, as well. For example, we are like a partner with Microsoft, so obviously we try to push for Microsoft Ads. So, well, yeah, but we appreciate like all of these different platforms as well. But like one of the stats was that they reach like 1 billion users worldwide. So that just gives you an idea of like how much opportunity there is in that platform that people might not realize.
Yeah, loads. The scale of it, I think, is like untapped in some ways, and obviously that'll get more expensive the more that kind of advertisers go into that space. But yeah, they're big figures.
Yeah. Okay, let me think. Any more questions? I mean, is there anything else that you would like to cover? Like maybe any particular advice you would give for PPCs right now that would be, you know, relevant for any kind of common worries or?
Yeah, I think if I was just to spitball a few things that PPCs probably need to be thinking about now, is again how tracking is going to impact us. You know, enhanced conversions and all the rest of it. Naturally, I get a lot of questions from clients in terms of like what's this doing, what is cookies doing, what is that doing, to make sure that we know exactly what it's doing in the PPC space. Is going to be really important to understand what we can and can't track. And again, with things like enhanced conversions, it just means we can track a little bit more and be a little bit more certain of the traffic that's coming through. But as kind of keywords kind of slowly diminish, I think it's all going to be about how we utilize creative assets, our images, our videos, even our headlines to some degree. How do we make them better than everyone else who might be relying on chatbots a little bit more to create those? And actually, if you don't use the chatbot, I think there's still a certain kind of way with the English language that means that if you're not using a chatbot, you can probably stick out more than someone who's using a chatbot. Don't just fall for the common trap of, you know, free delivery or get the lowest price or browse the biggest range. If we actually think about things outside the box, about what people and what pain points people actually need by selling this product or service, that's the way to stand out, especially in this busy time of Black Friday when everyone's going to be shouting all at once.
Yeah, it all kind of blends into one, doesn't it? If
Definitely.
everyone's saying the same things, you have to learn how to stand out. We've actually just brought out a ebook about creatives as well, so that ties in nicely with that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's really cool. I'll check that out.